We will start now. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to this third peer learning session on interoperability solutions. So my name is Bernard Claes, and I'm working in the Interoperability and Digital Government Unit of the European Commission. Before we begin, I would like to let you know this session is recorded and will be posted on the Interoperable Europe portal. And we will do it by the end of the month. Today, we'll explore the API Gateway enablers, and this session will provide you practical insights into two solutions. The first one is the Irish Information Mediator, and the second one is a Dutch Federated Service Connectivity. So let's start with the first presentation, and now I give the floor to Joe for the Information Mediator. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernard. First of all, I'd like to thank the Commission for the opportunity to present our solution, our technology, so we appreciate that. I'm here today as part of the OGCIO, which is the Office of the Government CIO in Ireland. We're working with Tony Shannon and his team to develop building block solutions. One of those building blocks is the Information Mediator. So the genesis of this came from the GovStack open source community, which has one of their ideas is this Information Mediator. So that's what we will be presenting today. The foundation for this is another open source technology called Apache Camel, which some of you will be aware of, which is the #1 interoperability engine, open source engine that's out there. So that's one of the core components of the Information Mediator. So we have two of the technical team here with us today. So Tiago Viana and Andres Leal have been working on the project for a couple of years now, and Tiago is going to present the slides. So I'll hand over to Tiago now, if you can take over, Tiago.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So we can get the next slide. Yeah, just yeah, my name is Tiago. I'm software engineer. I'm leading the Information Mediator team. Andres is also here, as mentioned. He's since day one of Information Mediator. So yeah, we glad to be here and happy to address any questions in the end. I'm really passionate about changing people's lives. That's my mission, and working on something that directly affects people's everyday life is really exciting. I'm really happy to be here. Just sharing that, I think it's important. The agenda will be quite simple. We're passing through the briefly building blocks, focusing on the Information Mediator, why we believe we all should choose Information Mediator, where we are, some of our engine capability. We brought some use cases, real use cases we have at the moment. Some of the architecture, if we see how deep can we go there, and the roadmap, what we're doing now, what we plan to do, not everything, but what we can disclose. And by the end, as mentioned, we can get some Q&A. So next slide, please. So I can share from my experience. I've been building products for quite a few years, public and private sector. There are a lot of similarities independent of the product the company I work for, but today I will share about one that is how many times I have built the very same thing during these 20 years of experience. So that means waste, right? So governments, departments in Ireland or countries in the European Union, they share a common goal, and they're part of one united ecosystem, which creates an environment to create some or to reduce or even remove entirely this waste. And building blocks are here for that. So they are parts of software that create a reusable component that to actually address this need of building bespoke integrations. Next slide, Flo, please. So the Information Mediator is the I'd say the brain, like the nervous system of the building blocks. It's goals is to build the core national infrastructure to be the core national infrastructure, offering these reusable patterns for multi-agents integration. So basically, if you see on the right, we have this very simple chart flow. System A that needs to connect it to system D. We're talking about like two entirely different departments, right? So they could establish a directly connection, establish agreements, and create a whole project to do that. But then we doing through Information Mediator. So what happens that is that Information Mediator basically built it in a way that it can be reusable later by system B that now wants to connect to the very same department. And now it doesn't actually need to build everything from scratch, right? Everything it's already there. So we offer those that capability out of the box, and then we can speed up the development time. That's the main purpose of Information Mediator. Facilitate that secure data sharing between those departments. Next slide, please. So why choose Information Mediator? Bits and pieces were already said, but it was sharing them again. So for departments, we can connect new service quickly, right? Without bespoke development. We also, as I mentioned, we created in a way that we considering multiple aspects of the target system and the source system and the target system. So let's say the target system have a specific need. They need to transfer a specific amount of data that actually system B is not able to handle in that moment or for any reason. So we mediate that in a way that we are ready to use the maximum capabilities from both systems and receive at one pace and deliver at another pace. So the costs already mentioned. So for citizens, I think one is the better public expanding. We build one engine instead of many. Faster government responses. So we already have the agreements in place, security protocols in place, and moving to the other benefits like compliance. So everything that we build, not just the technical piece, but it has in mind one thing: facilitate the adoption and the integration. Next part, please. So where we are at the moment, Information Mediator, we Java Quarkus application. We use Artemis as a message queue, and as mentioned before, Apache Camel is a core capability. is used in multiple integrations, and sharing a little bit about what we have in place. So we have other building blocks, like you see in the right, the journey builder that is able to create customized flows for citizens. For example, fill out a form, do a payment, and receive a message back. So Information Mediator is actually mediating the communication between those building blocks and other departments that want to reuse those capabilities. We also built the direct connection with some departments, agencies. One example is GRO, in which we can retrieve birth certificate. So if a specific system or capability needs to retrieve the birth certificate, we already have a connection in place, a connector in place that can provide that. And actually that capability is being used in the OOTS project, in which we receive this request from other European Union countries. and we'll be able to respond with a specific documentation, the birth certificate, for example. So it's integrated information with DOMIBUS, that is the European Union Transport Gateway. Next slide, please. So some of the engine's capabilities, we have two ways of processing requests, synchronous, asynchronous. So there are moments that we need to do the process in one go. So we receive a request, we do the process, we access the target system, we get the information, and we deliver immediately back to the source system. Other times we receive the information and then we just transport it directly. So we respond directly to the source system and we transport it, we process in a background layer. That's our async process pipeline. That's in the second square. So we able to do the entire processing as a separated process. So decryption, validation, we can deal with attachments, and when everything is delivered, we are able to inform the source system that, okay, everything was delivered as intended, or if any error occurred. What we obfilter errors, do retries, and everything, so no submission, no information will be lost. One of the things that we need to deal with is the difference between systems, and they are comprehensive. So we have a system that is schema agnostic, and we're working hard to make that possible. Apache Camel helps with that. We also heavily integrated with the OOTS system, European Union Evidence Bridge. So every evidence document that is needed for the OOTS project, it's actually delivered via Information Mediator. And one thing that we work at the moment is evolving our testing capabilities and offering simulated environments in which developers will be able to start developing integrations with in a faster and a controlled way without actually hitting the real systems, speeding up the development, and then when everything is working as intended, we switch back to the real target system. Next slide, please. So that's flow that represents what I just shared. If you take a look, it's basically we have these national clients, applications, a digital wallet. There will be a slide specifically for that. We use TrueScale as an API gateway, so it accesses these internal components. If you look, you have a message queue, and we have specific components, persistent service, evidence requested, evidence provided. Those are related to the OOTS project, and the other side is the connection with DOMIBUS and the European Union network. Also, as part of the internal platform is our handlers. So basically our connectors to the department systems. So we have the detail, a handler for to get the driver license. We have a handler for birth certificates. So that's how we create the connectivity between the Information Mediator and the departments, avoiding any source system to actually have to create those things by themselves. Next slide, please. So those are the current use case. We have a digital wallet, a client-face application where citizens can retrieve some information, and we had some pilots, different pilots, depending on the moment in time, but it would be possible to in the past to retrieve the driver license, for example, and be able to use it in a mobile application. For the OTS, that's another project that's entirely connected. Currently, it's possible to request some documents, for example, the birth certificate, and the departments that are integrated are RSA, GRL, and DSP. Next slide, please. I think the benefit of time, I will just pass this slide. I already explained it about it. One thing about the OTS that I think it's worth mentioning is at the moment we are implementing the TDD 2.0. That's the latest OTS technical document release, and we move towards that. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, maybe. I think that's already shared about it. Next slide, please. So to share a little bit about the roadmap, as I mentioned, at the minute we working on the OTS compliance, we already have support for version 1.2.3, and the TDD 2.0 is an implementation. So this involves changing on the OTS connected component project and also the information mediator. We also developing an SDK for speeding up the development of to drive the adoption of the information mediator. Those are alpha versions, but the idea is to make the life easier for anyone that wants to use information mediator. The integration simulator, that was mentioned briefly before, but it's in environments ready to be used by integrators. So again, the goal is to provide tools that will simplify any integration development work. We're not just a core engine, we also want to be we're building an ecosystem to facilitate that integration to happen. What's coming next for us is the operational shock absorber, that's how we call it, is we building interesting capability in the system that will make it able to handle any amount of load in its engine and actually gracefully handle the delivery independently of the target system capabilities. That's a huge win. So we will be able to be at any time at maximum performance and processing capacity, and work on future proofing. That is, we know that there are patterns using across the board, internally in Ireland and European Union as a whole, and together with Apache Camel as a core technology, we are evolving our handles, adapters, connectors in a way that we can reach even more patterns used in different systems, and of course offering this out of the box for any interested department that want to connect with us. And we're working towards replacing our that's later, but we're moving from 3 scale, and it's been discontinued, and we at the moment evaluate the options, so we'll be replacing soon. Next slide, please. Bringing here one slide about the Information Mediator Hackathon. This is an event that it's being organized by us, in which we will demonstrate the current full capabilities of Information Mediator. So teams will be able to access our developer portal, generate API keys, and then create a project and execute the challenge we'll be providing there. And we're also providing an alpha SDK and an integration simulation, also alpha versions. So they will build their solutions using those tools that we're offering. Yeah, that's the hackathon. And I think that's it.
Thank you, Tiago, very much. This is the identity card for the Information Mediator, which you can revisit later for a summary of the solution. And I think we can go to the Q&A part. Are there any questions from the audience here? You can write your questions in the chat or unmute your mic. Okay, we see one, and we see also a hand, so let me first go to the chat. Is it expected that end users might identify operational bugs, for example, in the processing of citizens' requests?
I am trying to find the chat here, sorry.
No worries. Bottom right should be in the bottom right.
That's an interesting question, and I don't know if we have actually thought about the process that we would need to have in place for citizens to identify bugs. We do have processes in place when we're working with different government departments for them to open tickets and give feedback, but for citizens we don't yet have a process for that, or how they would identify bugs. I guess the thing about the Information Mediator, you know, it's a piece of middleware, so the citizen doesn't see the Information Mediator. What they see is an application or a portal that's connected to the Information Mediator. So if they are going to be raising a bug, they will probably raise a bug on the digital wallet or whatever other website or portal that they're using to access the service. So I think that's the way it would work. And then the teams responsible for maintaining those applications or services would then investigate it, and potentially, if it was a problem with the Information Mediator, they would feed it through the internal channels to the support channels we have. Tiago, I don't know if you have any other thoughts on that one.
And I think touched really well on that. But if we working really hard, and our mission is quite ambitious, but we are humble enough to be in the background, and that's the whole point of Information Mediator. So the citizens will be using the client-facing applications that are handled by other by specific departments. So we certainly need to put something in place to make sure that anything that is created, any ticket, any feedback, but towards the client-facing applications that target and the source system in our terms, so we can, if it's something with us, then we can address for them. But I'm also my understanding is that we would not be directly in contact with the clients as a subsystem, as a connector, I'd say.
Great, thank you. And we see also Gerard has their hand up.
Yes, thanks, Tiago, for this presentation. My understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding that this, what you are presenting, is more or less a data intermediation platform, so something similar to what Austria has, and they call it DATEX, or Spain with intermediation platform for data de plataforma de intermediación de data, or something like called like that, and other member states have similar solutions. Do you showed that you are using it for providing data to front ends, but do you also use it? I guess you do, but just for my understanding, do you also use it for direct back office to back office exchange, so direct between registers to exchange data. And I guess that you consider this as an interoperable, potential interoperable Europe solution because it could help for cross-border data exchange, but I guess not only, because you can also use it for national data exchange, but it would nevertheless be a national infrastructure. So this is not really directly a cross-border infrastructure, I guess, but is a national infrastructure that can be used also in the context of cross-border data exchanges. Yeah, am I correct? Or if I said something wrong, you can. Yeah.
May I take that question, Tiago?
I
Yeah,
can take
definitely.
that one, I think, Tiago, if
Yeah.
that's okay.
So
Yeah, so
just-
there's a number of things there, Gerard. So I'll address the national and the European one. So it is a system that's been built to solve both of those problems, right? So within the national level in Ireland, there's something called life events, which is, citizens doing a journey through government services, right? So it's been used in the national context there to interconnect many different government departments. But then it's also been used for the single digital gateway and the once only technical system. So it's been built to serve both those purposes, because they're quite similar. Now, the DOMIBUS is a SOAP-based system, I think, as some people will know, right? So there is a conversion that needs to happen between the SOAP messaging and the REST, typically REST interfaces that the Irish government departments are using. So that's part of what it does. But it does solve both of those needs. And I think, we started this project 2.5 years ago. And we wanted to use all open source technologies and no proprietary technologies. And it was based on the GovStack principle. So it does do back office connectivity, right? So some of those building blocks that Tiago would have shown at the start of his presentation, things such as messaging, payments, the digital wallet, there is back-end connectivity between all of those systems and between other government departments. So it's not just, feeding user interfaces or client facing. So it does both of those. Yeah, what I think I covered everything there, Gerard, but maybe I missed something.
Yeah, actually, one addition real quick is I think most of the communication is actually backend, because those solutions, they have a front end, but the backend is part of that, the building block, the target system, the source system, and we're in the middle. So the most common use case is actually a backend connecting to us. Then we processing that information and sending towards another backend system. And handling all the complexities of doing that between systems that are that not normally follow, as Joe said, the same pattern, right? The same standards, and some of them don't even are open to the internet. You need to do this via very specific configurations and agreements to make that thing happen. But I think Andres also wanted to share something. Do you want to go for that, Andres?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Joe already handled the question really well. I just wanted to add that obviously Spain and other countries are having similar solutions, because this is coming from the GovStack, and we are not reinventing the wheel. We are reusing the patterns that are there. And definitely we are connecting back office, and we are also connecting or helping the interconnection of the with other European countries. And that's where Information Mediator sits. It's in the middle. As Joe was saying, DOMIBUS sends we handle all the communication through DOMIBUS. That's the way we handle it. And then it is transformed into, it's moved into our queue, and that queue talks to our info mediator, and then we send those messages around to the different evidence providers, evidence requester, and all that. But finally, it comes back to the information mediator to get the requests or the certificates from the different departments. So it's definitely in the middle of everything, and it's basically a back office exchange information tool. It's not facing customers or anything. It's basically a back office solution. Yeah.
So connected to that, I mean, our strategy is to make Information Mediator like available as source code available as an open source. So we midway through that journey yet, but it is evolving to be a fully fledged platform. What I mean by that is we working hard to build it in a way that can be reused. And if other countries would be interested in using it or collaborating to evolving it, that would be amazing, because then what you mentioned, that there are solutions being built by different countries, maybe we could work towards one unite solutions for everybody.
Yeah, there are many solutions already existing. So, but they are probably doing things differently using other technologies, but they have the goal is the same. The goal is always to have some sort of data intermediation platform, so to don't put the load directly on the registers on where the data come from, but to have a central hub platform that is dealing with these things, and that is intermediary between the evidence, the data providers and the data requesters.
And removing all the complexities from the data providers as well. Now, the great example for that is our driving license example. For example, in our case, we offer a single request to anybody that uses it to get all the data, but internally it means 5 different requests to get the whole data of driving license, for example. So it's something we try to hide down from anybody using Info Mediator, and that is using mainly Camel integration. It's has been said, it's already well-known open source integration tool. Yeah. Thanks for the question, Pierre.
Yep.
Great. Are there any more questions? Feel free to unmute your mic and ask anything that you'd like. Since we don't see any more questions, I will jump into a question that we have on our side here for the team. So, label solutions have to be assessed for their usability and interoperability assessments. Would it make sense for public authorities to look in this context at their usability of the information mediator for the implementation of the assessed decision? And would that be a straightforward or a difficult assessment?
Okay, I think part of this was already responded. I mean, our strategy is really to make Information Mediator source code available, so open source it, and evolve it into a fully fledged application and platform. So reusability would be high because of that, because we're following patterns. We want to make the source code consistent and handling this specific need through configuration than necessarily refactoring your new code. I mean, for use case that requires specific customizations, we are using open source solutions. One that we use a lot is Apache Camel for that, and so our platform is designed to be future proof, and we will employ adapters, connectors to be able to address those use case. So our assumption is, yes, I think this makes assessment for reusability straightforward for public authorities.
Great, thank you very much. We also see Costa's comment in the chat. Thank you for the suggestion. It's great to see the connection between solutions. Maybe one more question. I'm not sure if we've spoken about the challenges yet. So what was your main challenge to implement your solution, and which were the main lessons learned following the implementation?
I'll bring here a response that's actually considering multiple feedbacks on that. But I think the primary lesson was that project management software engineer is actually about people, not code. So processes, conscious approaches, and really think a lot about what to adopt as a technology, managing organizational change, fostering innovation mindset, people dynamics. Those are like past, current, and future problems and challenge, not problems, but challenges that everyone, I did not only us, but I think everyone is passing through. Technically, the most significant hurdles were establishing, I think, these connectivities between disparate systems, right? Public, private ones. So this often involves restrictions, security protocols, all sort of diverse configurations. So I mentioned that before, sometimes we deal with systems that are not actually available through regular channels, internet, publicly, APIs. So we need to implement it, everything from the ground up, and walk through not just the technical implementation, but requirement gathering, find solutions to the problems that were in place. So yes, we are learning and increasing the time that we take to actually put those integrations in place. Which that's the learning. It's we're still learning, but we faster every iteration cycle, and we'll be more than happy to share this with anyone. Yeah.
Thank you. Let's now jump into a few questions we have for our audience here. Yeah, sorry. So if you could please join this session on Slido, you can scan the...
I'm not seeing the screen, Vicky, for some reason.
Oh, I'm not sharing?
Yeah, no worries. Yeah. We're not seeing it now, but you can check. Now we can see it, thanks.
Great. So if you can join Slido with the code you see on the bottom left, or scan the QR code. We have, let me go to the first question. We have 3 very simple questions. So the first one is whether you already have a similar solution that you use in your organization. Would like to know if you're using a similar solution. So if you can please write in the box that appears any solutions that you're using currently. Okay, not yet. Where? Okay. Great, national solutions. If you'd like to provide any more insight on that, you're welcome. We see a few more people typing, so let's wait for a few more answers. Yes, we have interoperability is the true problem. Okay. Okay, we don't see any more people typing, so we'll go to the next question. Oh, we have one more. You can use the WebEx chat afterwards if you want to provide any further input on the questions here. Okay, great. So, are you satisfied with your current solution? No need to answer if you don't use anything right now, but for the people that are using another solution currently, okay, we see a variety of answers here. Average mostly, great. And one last question here. How do you evaluate the potential of the presented solution? So the Information Mediator. Okay. Great. Thank you for everyone answering. If you'd like to share any more information, feedback, insight, we will close this Slido session now. You can use the WebEx chat, and I think we can. Cost is using right now. I think we can continue with our next project solution presented for today, Federated Service Connectivity, and I will pass the floor and the screen to Elko.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity as well. We are here with 3 people. I'm Ilko from the Ministry of the Interior. Long ago, I started with this project, but now I moved on to other project. And we have 2 people, Lonneke and Liam, from the Stichting Rinus, which is a foundation that is currently operating the reference implementation and applying this solution for many use cases. And they can talk about what we do exactly at this moment in the Netherlands. So let me go through a few slides. Why did we build this? And this started in 2018. We saw an uptick in the use of APIs, and every project that was communicating with another organization was building their own connection. And one of the hardest things is to actually go from inside your own organization through a few infrastructure layers to reach the internet or a closed network solution, and then going into the other organization. And that was for every connection their own challenge, and often this was taking like weeks or even months to achieve. And everyone was inventing their own wheels, or they were using certain commercial providers, but that were not compatible, etc., etc. So this was slowing down connections and API use. This is the main reason why we started in 2017, 2018, inspired on actually the X-Road from Estonia. We had at that moment some large projects with the central gateway solution, but in the Netherlands we have a lot of connections and a lot of transactions going over the line, so this quickly became a bottleneck. one organization was using a sustained 15,000 transactions per second, another 8,000, etc., etc. So that's why we wanted a peer-to-peer solution. No central traffic gateway. One other reason for that is that we didn't want all citizen data flowing through one point for privacy reasons. This means every organization stays in control of their own actions and their own data usage. Data can stay at the location where it's in the correct government organization. An example is, for example, we have a national registry of vehicle registration number plates, where you can look up who is the owner of this vehicle registration number, which is used, for example, by municipalities if they issue a parking permit, which is a very small, quick transaction. Is this the owner? Yes or no? But it's also used for emission zones. Every time a car drives into an emission zone, it's checked what kind of fuel does it use, what's the year of build, etc., etc. So you can imagine that there's a lot of very small transactions going from a lot of organizations, etc. And so we decided to set up this peer-to-peer federated structure, so we can horizontally scale, and if two organizations have a very high traffic flow, they can just scale up their own infrastructure, and there is no central bottleneck. Then in the beginning we had a software that everyone had to use. We called it NLX. But in, I think, 2022, we switched to a standard, which is FSC, Federated Service Connectivity. Everyone can make their own implementation or use their own existing gateway. And then we have an open FSC, which is a reference implementation, open source, usable by everyone. And of course, we are using just international standards in an opinionated way to craft this solution. This is basically how it works. We have the data which is flowing between outways and inways, which is just two gateways, but in a reverse role. And we have managers in every organization, which is a component that negotiates contracts. And this is all automatable. So it can be done with scripts, with APIs. And if you want a new connection between two organizations, FSC allows you to set it up as quickly as in seconds instead of weeks or months. Yeah, that's basically it. So it's mainly used for communication between machine to machine. There is no front end, there is no user interaction. Of course, people can have their own front end on top of that back end. That's mostly how it's used, but that's not the core of this solution. What we use is certificates that you know from TLS. We have in the Netherlands a PKI overhead, which is PKI government structure, which means we have certificates that are identity, containing the identity of every organization, and every peer, which is an organization in a group, presents one of those certificates as their identity. We use mutual TLS to encrypt and guarantee the identity both ways. And we have the automated contracts, which basically contain information about who can access which services from which organization. I can go in a little more depth here. So this is what the certificate looks like. it's just a normal certificate, but here you see this is the name of the organization. This is an organization identification number, which is standardized in the Netherlands, and this is the identification of the group and the FSC group that you're in. And this is an example of one of those contracts. Each contract has a validity. It basically says this organization peer identifier can access this service of this peer identification number. And this contains all information for two organizations to connect to each other. And one contract can be way more complicated than this. This is the most simple example, but one contract can, for example, contain 8 parties that are all communicating with each other, and they all have to sign. If one of them invalidates a contract, it stops the whole flow. Some other things that were possible because it's all standardized and uniform. We have service discovery. So if you have a service that you're offering via your in-way, it's shown, if you want to, in a central shared directory where others can find them. There is a front end on it, but it's also an API. And by just selecting the service, you can start a new contract. Everyone can initiate a contract, the provider or the relying party. And this, this is made possible because it's all uniform. Another nice solution is the delegation. What's often happening is that an organization is doing the work for another organization. For example, municipalities have commercial parties doing the work or using software as a service. And in the past, they were actually handing out their own PKI override certificates, so this party could use a service in their name, basically handing out their own passport to another organization. We didn't want that, so in the contracts you can now say something like this. And delegated service connection. So this is delegated. In this example, it would be a municipality, their identity, and it gives the permission to for example, the software as a service organization, their peer identity, to use a service of a third organization. And this is still federated peer-to-peer. So if the municipality decides this commercial organization can no longer use my access rights to connect to this service, they can just revoke this contract and it stops working. I think FSC fits in the EU interoperability. Obviously, I think Lonneke Liam can talk about one's only technical system, which Stichting Rinus does have a big role in the Netherlands. And we are using FSC to connect, for example, municipalities to the bridge. And of course, everything we do is open. It's open source. It's all on public Git servers. We use EU PL license. I can go in a lot of technical depth about this, but we will wait for questions for that. So where we are, I think we are a bit further down the line compared to this roadmap. But well, I think the standard was started in 2022, And then in 2024, it was formalized in a central body, and we published the open FSC reference implementation and had some first organizations using it. And it now has a status that every organization that does a procurement above 50,000 euro has to use this standard. If it's, of course, applicable, if you're using APIs and connections between organizations, or you have to explain why you don't use it. This is recent, but we see the uptick right now in more organizations using it or projects that are in the process of implementing this for their use case. What we see, one of the questions you're going to ask, but we can answer it now. Who moves first is a big issue. The central registries don't really have an issue. They say, if you connect to us, you have to connect this way. They don't have an issue. Every organization that is using their data has to use their way of connecting and auditing, etc. So, but for example, municipalities, they have to connect to more than 16, some up to 32 connections. And if they all work in a different way, it's hard for them to stay in control and to maintain that all. So we have to convince the central registries to offer their services in this standardized way. And often the cost or the investment is in another organization than the one that's benefiting from it. Oh, and also, well, I will get to that. If we are ready for the Interoperable Europe solution label, well, this is obviously not our goal when we started, but now that we are here, I think in the Netherlands, this fits it in a larger ecosystem. So we have also standards for GDPR compliant logging. We have API design rules that are standardizing how APIs work. FSC is just the connection layer. It allows for all HTTP traffic to go through and actually just solves how to quickly set up new connections to organizations you didn't use data from before. But while it is in production, we have the standardization process is quite mature. We use DOMIBUS, which is already an Interoperable Europe solution. And well, this addresses a specific need for, I would say, a country or a large group of organizations. So it's not very useful if you're just two organizations that decide we need a connection, then it's not worth the investment. But if you're a large group of organization or even a country, well, I think you should consider something like this. There are documents where you can look up how it works, aimed at different groups of people, different audiences. Yeah, that's about it, I think. And Lonneke, Liam, you can tell something about how it's being used at the moment.
Yes, thank you, Ilko. Right now, as an example, we are working with two executive agencies in the Netherlands. One is the agency that keeps track of all the driver's license in the Netherlands. There's going to be a new law, and we see that typically when a new law arrives, we're in a situation where you can apply a new standard. And our strategy is to have the open FSC components, so the software available, so that it's easy to implement. And we have centralized support. So our team at Rinus, we help organizations also the suppliers, so not just the government agencies, but also the suppliers to implement this new standard. We have roadmaps and architectural decision playbooks where they are helped in implementing this solution. And it really helps that we can give them real hands-on support when implementing it. And we see, as Ilko was mentioning, great uptake. So every new API basically that is built by a government agency has to implement this standard. And they have a community where they can ask the questions and we can give them quick feedback and support in that. So that strategy of looking at the new APIs is working really well. So that's one for the driver's license registry. Another one was already mentioned by Ilko is, of course, for the OOTS system. We use FSC basically as the standardized way to connect from a Dutch perspective to the digital gateway. And then obviously in a European context, we need to use the e-delivery protocol, but it's used by the municipality, for example, to communicate with a single digital gateway. And there we do the same thing. We offer open source components that they can then use in production. It's also tested for security and performance. So it's production ready software. It's not just a reference implementation. It's actually built and maintained to be used in production. We use it ourselves to host the national directory. And we use the open source components as well. And we see sometimes also a mixture where the Open FSC manager to negotiate the contracts is using the Open FSC components. But for the policies and the token exchange, they can use existing API gateways because that is based on how OAuth and other protocols are working. So you don't need to get a bespoke solution for that. So we see a combination of pure open source implementations and using the open source implementation in combination with existing API gateways. And the last big project that we're also working on right now is in the social services area where municipalities all offer an API through their suppliers. And our executive agency for statistics is gathering data from the municipalities based on FSC, and they automate that process that Ilko was describing because there's multiple APIs that they need to connect with, and because they all use the same standard way of securing the connection and negotiating the contracts, they build something that they can automatically query the directory and then fetch the data from the different APIs using FSC as a standard. And they built that with the open source implementation as well. So I think the critical success factor here is that we both have the standard, as Ilko was saying, so everybody can use their own tooling when they want, but there's also a supported open source version with centralized support where so that organizations feel comfortable implementing a new standard like this. And we recognize very much that the benefit is mainly in the consumers because they don't have all the different standards that they have to adhere to. But luckily, a lot of organizations are both provider and consumer of APIs. So it will be like a snowball growing. And that is what we can see in the Netherlands right now.
Thank you very much, Lonneke and Elke, for the presentation. I think we can go to the questions that we see that we already have in the chat. Again, am I sharing my screen? Again, we have the identity card for Federated Service Connectivity, which you can revisit later. And let's jump into the questions from the audience. We have a question from Rita. You said that you were inspired by Estonian X-Road. Why didn't you implement X-Road directly?
Yeah, we actually went several times to Estonia, one time for several days, working with the people from I think NIIS it was at this time, because the concepts they were implementing were really great, and we wanted to copy that. But quickly we realized it wasn't performant enough for our use case. And that's why we started building our own NL X-Road, which was more federated, no central components, but still adhering to the same concepts. I think at this moment X-Road is way more performant, but this was in 2018, and still X-Road has more centralized components that we didn't want for ideological reasons. Like I said, the privacy by design, if there is no processor needed, no man in the middle needed for anything, it's always better. So that's how it's working right now. But the main reason why we couldn't adopt it back then was the performance. I think on a server back then, I don't know how it's right now. A reference server with 2 cores, 8 GB memories, we couldn't get it past 90 requests per second, while we needed like 20,000 requests per second. So that was something we couldn't bridge. And also, I think in the Netherlands, it's a whole. There is a magnitude, an order of magnitude of difference in the transactions per second we need between all the organizations. Estonia is a way smaller country, I think, in both the number of digital services and the population.
Yeah, I think maybe also, Ilko, that the advantage of this solution is that you can easily integrate it with your existing API solutions, which we see a lot of organizations already have that. Whereas if you have the centralized one, then you need to change more in your current infrastructure.
Great.
Yeah, it has certainly benefits to have a security service as the X-Road has, and that was what we wanted to achieve when we started with our software. But because many organizations had already existing implementations for their API gateways, etc., it was way harder for them to adopt what we were proposing.
Okay. Hope this answers the question. There's one more question in the chat from Joe. You said it is mandatory in the Netherlands. This means that it's mandatory for all governmental agencies and departments. How is this enforced? Is it in legislation or is it mandated from top down?
So we have quite some efforts to mandate this kind of things, not just FSC, but we have a whole ecosystem with the governing bodies that are consisting of high level people from all kinds of governments, from municipalities, provinces, the national level, and they all pay to a central fund, and we fund this kind of things from that fund. So if you're not using what you're already paying for, well, then you have to pay for your own solution. I think that's about 400 million a year, so that's quite substantial. And in this government bodies, they make high-level deals. So let's all use this. Let's go this direction. So that helps a lot. So they obviously tell their own organization, you have to use this because that's the way we are going. Also, it's one way to if the EU comes with new solutions like OATS or the ED wallet or EIDAS, this is the way that we make sure it gets implemented in all government organizations. It's not, well, there is no punishment if you don't use it, but every organization is asked to explain if they don't use it. And well, it would help if I don't think it's better to make a solution that everyone wants to use than to enforce it very hard, I think. There is talk about making it more mandatory than it is right now.
We also have like a review, I think it's not every year, but where there's a report where all the organizations that are funded by that fund that Ilko was mentioning are questioned, and they have to answer what standards they are implementing, so that it's quite publicly known if you're not using that. So that from a reputation level is also sort of a stimulation to adhere to it.
Perfect, thank you. We don't currently have any more questions in the chat, and
I might have one
There's a
if you
hand.
permit me.
yes, great.
Okay, so you adopted a decentralized approach, right? That differs from the X-Road principle. So, but who manages the network itself? It's just to understand how could it be adopted, and who is responsible to manage the network that actually orchestrates this peer-to-peer communication?
If I understand you correctly, most of this is going over the internet, so public internet. And we also have what we call Digi network, which is a closed network, which is physically isolated and where many governmental organizations are connected via glass fiber with each other. That's a separate project, separate funding, but we are using it with organizations that are using that network can use FSC to build their connections. That's basically how it works. Is that what you meant?
Yes, more or less. I was trying to understand a little bit about the ways of working. You because you mentioned the performance aspects of X-Road and that it had a centralized approach for the communication. So and trying to understand how you solved that problem specifically. And one thing specific I wanted to know is, so there is no specific network in which the parties need to run in it for you?
No, the network is constructed by the group identifier. So all peers that are in one group can easily reach each other by definition of the contracts.
Okay, using common existing protocols. Okay, got
Yeah.
it, got it.
I have
Thank you.
my hand.
Yes, please, Gerard. Yeah, you
Yeah, okay.
you had your hand raised. Sorry
Okay.
for waiting.
Yeah, I would have a very interesting presentation also again, which you see which is trying to solve similar problems than the one in Ireland, but we had a slightly different manner. So these solutions, in my impression, are basically trying to solve more or less the same problems, but they are working differently. But one question I had two questions. You explained already why you didn't use X-Road, but did you analyze other approaches than X-Road at the time? So, for example, did you analyze e-delivery approaches? And if yes, why didn't you go in the direction of an e-delivery network? And then regarding what Thiago said, I think the question would be for me, it would nevertheless be interesting. What is the governance you are having for this exchange? Because even if it is obviously not now a physical network, like you're saying, you're using the internet, but I guess there are nevertheless common rules, but there are common rules, and I guess there probably some sort of governance is needed. And how is this organized?
Shall I take the governance one, Ilko?
Okay. Did we analyze other solutions? Back then, in 2018, there were not many other solutions for specifically APIs. So there was, of course, EBMS, I think EBMS 2 at the time, and eDelivery. But eDelivery is using EBMS indeed, SOAP XML. It is a stateful solution, so it's not easy to reap the benefits of APIs. And at the moment, you can use eDelivery. It's a four-corner model, just like FSC basically, but you can use APIs between corner 1 and 2 and between corner 4 and 3, but not between 2 and 3. That is EBMS 2, EBMS 3, I think, with AS4 profile. We would hope that at one moment, eDelivery goes on to implement APIs. Perhaps something
You
like
mean
FSC could
between
help.
corner 2 and corner 3 APIs?
Yeah. Yeah, and it could work different. The whole paradigm of APIs is basically different than what eDelivery is using. eDelivery is a perfect solution. We use it in the Netherlands, but if you want to use APIs, it's not fitting. Yeah.
Did you then see really use cases that you would not have been able to provide via an eDelivery network?
I don't have examples right now, but yes, if you want to use APIs and reap all the benefits of this and automate setting up those APIs and use them in horizontal scaling cloud native solutions, it's hard to do that with eDelivery.
Because I think I understand the advantages of APIs in certain situations, but I think that an eDelivery approach has also advantages in other use cases. So probably the best way would to find an approach to combine these things. But yeah, okay.
I think eDelivery has a lot of benefits. But those in the API landscape, those would be services on top of the APIs. So, for example, reliable messaging, you don't solve in the data layer, but in the business layer. If some service is not online, you have to buffer and keep something in store and deliver it later. That's a service. So it could be solved in a different way. It's not there at the moment. So if we need something, we use PEPL, we use eDelivery in the use cases that we need it for. But this is for other use cases. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so maybe a little bit about the centralized decisions or agreements that you need. We are building this on existing ecosystem within the Netherlands, where we all have an identification number as a public organization, as a government organization. And we already have governing bodies that Ilko was also mentioning for standards in general. And so what we have done with FSC is it's defined in an international manner in English, and then we translated that to the Dutch situation, and that is governed by the Dutch process that we use for information exchange. And there's two groups. One group is like a subgroup of organizations that are working with or interested in FSC, and we discuss technical details, problems they have with the standard, so not with the software, with the standard. if there's agreement about something that needs to be changed, then it goes to the regular body that's discussing about all standards, not just FSC, and they will have a technical advice, and then it goes up to all the bodies in the process where the high-level officials are deciding whether this will be a standard. So we have a already existing standardization process, and we added one subgroup to that so we can discuss in detail the FSC standard because it's new. And then for the open source components, we do something similar. We partake from an open source perspective in the standardization discussions, because whenever there's a new version of the standard, there needs to be a new version of the OpenFSC components. But we also need to fix security bugs, have feature requests, stuff like that. So there's also bi-weekly reviews where everybody can participate, see what we have built in those 2 weeks, and do feature requests. We have a Slack channel where people can do requests. So we have both the community for the open source components and the FSC standards are working together to make sure that it's actually applicable and that the standards that we define are executable, because we don't want to define standards that in practice are giving organizations problems. So that's how we make sure that it's actually realistic what is in the standard.
Thanks. Yeah, makes things clear. Yeah.
We have time for one more question if anybody has anything to ask. Else maybe a question from our side. I believe we talked a lot about the assessments and the challenges. Maybe there's some further insights here. Do you envisage collaboration with other member states or union entities, like around future developments of the solutions, and how?
Something about one's only technical system, Lonneke?
Yeah, so right now we are working with the once only technical system and the project that's looking at the wallet to see if you can offer as a government agency, offer one type of API and then be able to communicate with different standards in Europe. And as I mentioned before, the FSC standard is not written for the Dutch situation. It is an internationally set up standard, so you could also use it in another country, translate it to your own situation where you define your identification numbers and other things that are standardized in that country, or European numbers. So we think that in that context of the wallet and the once only technical system, it might be helpful to use it together with e-delivery, or maybe in some cases, as Ilko was saying, you might want to do a combination of the two. So that's where we see that future development could be useful with other member states. Yeah.
Thank you, that's very interesting.
And maybe also, I think, from a data spaces perspective, the data spaces protocol also talks about contracts. They talk a little bit more about the real message layer, but putting FSC as a base for the data spaces layer is also, I think, interesting as a concept.
And we already discussed e-delivery. We are actually researching right now what it would take to bring APIs to e-delivery. There were some attempts in the past, but they never progressed much. But if there are other countries interested in the same, we could try and take that up together.
Yeah, I can and then perhaps say that, yeah, we would be interested in working on this topic. I had also already quite some time ago exchanges with other member states, like for example Denmark, on the topic how can you combine e-delivery with APIs, and we made also a study about e-delivery some years ago about lack of interoperability of e-delivery networks because you have so many e-delivery networks, and we are working now together with other member states. The Netherlands is also a member of this EDIC, in the Impact EDIC. I'm not sure if you are aware of this. Impact EDIC is an EDIC that has been created in December last year, and it's an EDIC that has as the aim to achieve more interoperability. So it is working in the context of the Interoperable Europe Act, and we will participate to a call by the Commission, and one of the projects in this call is to create what we call a secure and interoperable cross-border data exchange network. And the idea is to try to prove that you can create a network for cross-border data exchange, but that could then obviously also be used for national data exchange. That would be really reusable, and that would work for the different types of use cases that exist in different domains and different sectors and different vertical needs, and that we could then stop in the future of creating all the time new data exchange networks in new contexts, in which is not efficient, not interoperable, very costly, time and yeah, etc. Yeah, and there the question of API is also already again interesting, because the aim of this network is to try to identify the different types of use cases that exist for data exchange, and to define a network that is as modular and flexible as possible, so that it could be fit for purpose for very different specific needs. Yeah. So if you are interested, it would certainly be interesting to have your input there. Also, the Netherlands is already member. It's
I think that's the Greek EDIC. Klopt that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Patrick is my colleague. He is.
Yeah.
I will talk to him. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you for the very interesting insights. We are running in the background some questions for the audience. Thank you to everyone answering. I think it's time to conclude the session now. So thank you very much to everyone here today. On our side, we're hosting another peer learning session. My colleagues can share the link in the chat now, where you can find our upcoming events. We also have the portal's user group meeting scheduled in June, which will be published soon for registration. And the Interoperable Europe Academy's seasonal school is also taking place in June. Thank you again very much to the two teams present here today, and we will see you in our next event.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please
Bye-bye.
also share your feedback if you can for
Thank
the
you.
session in the link we shared in the chat now. We'd very much appreciate it.
Big thanks to presenters here and speakers. Thanks for being with us, and for the audience, obviously. Yes. See you in the next peer learning session.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.